Hey again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder on Sunday, March 5th, 2023. And today, Postmaster Disaster. That'd be Police Report 23-692. Because as it turns out, withholding postmarks in stationery is a crime. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But let me finish a few other things. I am Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Berluski, U.S. Army veteran, also known as Rob Ryder. Email address is courtofrecord@aol.com. Always the best way to try to contact me. And my YouTube channel is Rob Ryder, ROBBB, 3 B's, Ryder, on YouTube. You'll find many videos I posted on all sorts of subjects, sort of like this, but different. But in this particular case, if you remember, I said I was going to take a little trip to Florida here after my last video. Well, I'm back now. And I drove down with my son. And so in driving, it was like a 2-day drive there, 2-day drive back, 7 days in Florida, drive. Lots of driving. So I had a lot of windshield time to contemplate a lot of different things. And I had just done a lot of things before I left. So I had a lot of things to contemplate. And when I got back, the next day I got back, which we got back in an ice storm in Michigan. Thankfully, I had power. Drove past all sorts of places, didn't have any power. I had power when I got home. That was wonderful. But the next day, I get a call from Dana, and who I've been working with. He lives in Kalkaska. And, we've tried things like filing reports with 911 and with the Sheriff's Department and even with the commander of Camp Grayling. And, on and on and on. We've written all sorts of complaints to people. Well, he had decided to take his complaint to the Kalkaska Village Police Department, Public Safety. So he called the number and said he wanted to file a police report. And they said, well, we'll have an officer call you back. And sure enough, they did. So this is what he's telling me he did. And I said, well, that's very interesting, because I had never actually called the police department itself. I had called the sheriff. And I'd done all sorts of things federally, trying to get the Army involved or the courts involved or, FBI involved. Everybody. Tax and so forth, tax agents and so forth, all sorts of ways, without getting anybody to get off their ass and do anything. So, because of some things that had happened in my last go-around trying to get things into the court, I was looking at the envelopes and saw these massive discrepancies, like they had canceled the stamp on a letter or a filing that I had sent to the court. And they put it in the court. There's the filing, and they show a copy of the envelope. We'll look at it here in a second. It looks like it's still sitting on my desk. So, well, I know that's wrong. So I started looking closer at some other, and sure enough, pretty soon you see a pattern. Well, this shit's wrong. Wrong. And because it was wrong, I said, well, there has to be a crime, about this. So I know there was federal crimes, but I was trying to make it, what I wanted to do was make it an issue for the city police, who have a duty to enforce the state law as well as ordinances. Right? So that's kind of what this whole video is about, and I'll break it down as we go. But if you have anything going anywhere that's supposed to be official with the government, they're intentionally making it so that our mail is not seen as official mail or official business of the government at the post office, because they don't cancel the stamp. And for you to do official business with the federal government, they have 3 different ways. So let's look at some of this stuff. Okay, so official mail, right? This is just a definition from the Postal Service. Official federal government mail includes penalty mail, frank mail, and prepaid mail. 1, 2, 3. Okay, federal agencies may use penalty mail. Well, that's one of the 3, which means it has meters, permits, business reply, PC postage. That's what they can do. Federal agencies can do that. It didn't say you could. It said federal agencies could. And then frank mail, which is one of the other 3 choices, is generally restricted to current and former presidents, vice presidents, of the United States and members of Congress. Right, and that's basically where they write their name, or they put an imprint of their name where the stamp should be, and that's called frank mail. You see, they didn't mention prepaid mail anywhere. We'll get to that one separately here shortly. But then, as it turns out, did you know that there's actually eagle watermarked paper? Right, the watermark is an eagle, and it's for official government correspondence and greater message impact, authenticity, and security. So if you wanted to do, let's say you want to petition the government for the redress of grievances, right? Well, then it would have to be official mail. It would have to be on eagle watermark paper, right? And this is really just like the Stamp Act from way back in the day being implemented still. They're not stamping your postage to show it's been prepaid, which is one of the ways you can have official mail. And we're not using this eagle watermark paper for our correspondence, which is required for it to be official. You know, it's like foolscap paper. This is all shit they did way back in the day. This is common law as common law could be. And it isn't what's happening. And, you know. Well, because of that, I filed a complaint. So give me just a second to get a few things together. We'll start looking at, some history on this, because I did a bunch of videos a few years ago. I say that was like 2018, maybe. Like Gateway to the Republic, right? It was about the post office and how it's, if it was done right, it would be our way to get in the Republic. And learned a lot of things about postal stuff that is in their manuals. And if you stick to that, there's really nothing they can do. Right now, it's just who can you tell? Find it in the manual, show they're not doing it, and do something about it. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. So let's see where we're at. Hang on a second. Okay, so how this most recent venture started was, if you haven't followed me, you see, remember I did these last 3 videos here on, where's the proof that habeas corpus is no longer suspended? And in it, I'm showing, here's the proclamation from Abraham Lincoln saying that he's suspending the writ of habeas corpus throughout the United States. And it's only for particular classes of people, which somebody like me, a veteran, would be one of the classes. Well, technically, it's anybody who's in the militia, and everybody is in the militia that's over 17 and a half years of age or older, up until 45 or 60, depending on if it's the federal militia or the state militia. Right? So it really applies to anybody who would be considered a citizen of the United States. But who it doesn't apply to is an illegal alien or something like that. So they could still get rid of habeas corpus. But, for the particular classes that, would matter to somebody like me, well, it was suspended for us. And it says in there what's supposed to happen for the suspension to end and da-da-da-da. So it's easy enough to say, well, unless these things happen, this is still ongoing. So part of that then is I decided that I was going to write to the Chief Judge of the United States District Court for the Western District of Michigan and just ask her right now. For the longest time, I've been some guy in Grand Rapids, and then here recently it became this lady that's over in Lansing. And now she's the chief judge. So I write her a letter. And that's all in these videos here. And her answer came the same day I got a reply from the court, but from a magistrate judge, about a case that I had actually opened a year ago. Well, obviously, this letter and that mailing had something to do with each other. And I had forgotten, because it had never really gone anywhere, that in May of last year, I opened a small claims case against the United States Union, right, in the Small Claims Court of Michigan. Well, under the United States Code, it says that the United States can, remove cases from state courts and put them into federal court. That's what they want to tell you, and they show you where it says it and so forth. But when they did that and they moved it to federal court, it was no longer the United States was the defendant. Now it was the United States of America. Well, I wasn't suing the United States of America. the United States of America is a possession of King George III, and that wasn't who my complaint was against. My complaint was against the United States for withholding my entitlements. And exactly what it was, we'll look at in a second. But it was a particular state law that allowed you to have this fine or penalty of like $300 or something like that. So I was really just going after the penalty, because when you go to small claims court, the damages are not the same as the cost. And so the damages are, that's a statutory amount. And because of the statutory amount, you can take it to small claims court. And if you win, then the cost or whatever else the court can give you to give you complete relief. Right? So the amount that goes in the damages or that you're opening the case against has nothing to do with what your final relief would be. It's just the reason you can bring it to small claims court, because it had damages less than X number of dollars, whatever your small claims court allows you to sue with. Anyways, so they took it, they moved it over, so it was the United States, now it's the United States of America, and then nothing really happened. I asked this question, and now I'm getting this other document back from the court at the same time that the judge is answering my question, right? Which, because of that, I said, well, I'm going to send her another letter, because she really didn't answer my question. She didn't answer, is habeas corpus suspended or not. She just told me why she couldn't tell me, which I didn't accept as an answer. I was going to do like it says in the Bible. I'll just keep going to the chief judge until I get relief. And that prompted another letter. And, so now I have all these envelopes and stuff. And that's really what we're going to be looking at here in just a second. So here we go. And I might as well show it while we're here, right? Hey, this is Skilled Craft. It's got a national stock number, right? Watermark paper, white, with a eagle watermark on it. And it says, for official government correspondence and greater message impact, authenticity, and security. So it's stamped paper that we're supposed to be using. If you want to do official business, you got to use official paper, put it in an official envelope. Then it's official. And we're not doing any of this stuff. And the ones leading us down the path is the postmaster. A few more little details, right? If you go under government services on the USPS website, and you go down here and see official mail, right? This where it says official federal government mail includes penalty mail, frank mail, and prepaid mail. And that's what we're going to look at. So here's one of those styles. It's called franked mail, right? This is where they would have an envelope and write their name here is for the mailer, right? And it's a card that says U.S. House of Representatives, somebody's office, official business, right? But it doesn't have the penalty statement, penalty of $300 for private use, right? It does say it's official business. That's okay. But that's one that's used for frank mail, not for penalty mail. We'll look at that here in just a second. Okay, so here's penalty mail. What is official mail? Penalty mail. So again, there's three types of official mail, right? We looked at the frank, this is the penalty, then we'll look at the prepaid. Official mail, also known as penalty mail, is sent by U.S. government agencies relating solely to the business of the U.S. government. Right, so it's something we can't use. We're not a U.S. government agency, but it's what they can use to do official mail. Doesn't mean we can't do official mail. We just can't do it the same way they do. They get to do it this way. These agencies must reimburse the United States Postal Service the equivalent amount of postage and fees due for penalty mail service they receive. Penalty mail stamped, stationery, plain stamped envelope, personal envelope, stamped cards, and penalty mail adhesive stamps are available in various denominations. So they can go buy these stamps or get these stamps, right? And it has on here penalty for private use $300, right? Official mail, USA, penalty for private use $300. Well, that's what they're supposed to have. They're supposed to have this penalty statement on here. And I'm going to show you on the ones that the judge sent to me, right? It doesn't have a penalty statement on there. It says official business. Is that what it says? official business or yeah, penalty for private use, $300. That's the penalty statement. And finally, there's like the prepaid mail, which means to pre-cancel with a postmark, right? And so it has to have these particular elements in it to have been done properly, and it has to be done in black ink and da 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 da. There's all these things have to have been done, and we're going to come back and look at this a little bit closer. But I just wanted to show you this is the third option that they have, and if this hasn't been done over the stamp, then it hasn't been canceled. And it can't just be the wavy line. It's got to have the circle here, and it's got to have the 5-digit zip code. It's got to have the full date, 25 May, right? Not just the month and the date. This is, when you put the 3 elements in, that indicates that this is first class mail cancellation. If it just had the month and the year, that's standard mail classification. And we need first class mail classification. And then just to show that they apparently can cancel, or they pretend to cancel, right? These strips, or whatever you want to call it, things run through the machine, right? Here's an example of one they're saying was done, but, it doesn't have a 5-digit zip code. It's not a round circle. It's, technically it's not correct. But here's another attempt, right? They put it through there. So, while you may be canceling the strip, it's not canceling it as official mail. Because official mail, you got to have the postmark. And this is not a postmark unless it's got a 5-digit zip code, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Now, unless they got some other law someplace they're not showing, I don't know. But, like this. This isn't a cancellation for first class mail because it doesn't have the circle with the 5-digit zip code. It's got the date. That looks okay. It's got the Omaha, Nebraska, but again, it does not have the zip code that it came from. And so Omaha, Nebraska may have a bunch of zip codes that start 680, but it came from a particular one. And it's not being annotated. Alrighty, so let's spend a few minutes with this manual here that you can download yourself. This is, from the USPS. It's P023 on pre-cancel stamps. If you Google that, you can download your own copy, and you'll see in here it says it describes pre-cancel stamps as the cancellation of adhesive postage stamps, stamped envelopes, stamped cards before mailing. Permit is necessary for this action. It may be used for philatelic or postage payment purposes. Wasn't that handy? Now, Bob out in Arizona, he actually did all this. When I was doing those videos back in the day, he was on it like a dog on a good bone. He went and he got the stamp. He did everything that you're supposed to be able to do to do this. But, it wasn't easy to get done, as I remember. And we haven't really figured out what to do with it exactly, but now it's starting to become clearer what needs to be done. Because if you don't have the permit, right, then the only one who can do it for you is the Postal Service. So, that's what I'm expecting. If I buy a first-class stamp, I give it to them, I expect them to cancel it. It's a first-class stamp. How come they didn't cancel it? All right, pre-canceling is the cancellation of adhesive postage stamps. Right, pre-canceling may be done by the Postal Service, USPS, or by the mailer under a postal permit. Well, I don't have one, so I can't do it myself. The interesting thing, though, is when Bob got this stamp, and he was doing the canceling, he didn't go to the window where everybody else goes. They had him go around the back of the frickin' post office. Go talk to some dude at the shipping desk or something like that. Right, which is, that's what the post office is. That storefront they call the USPS, that's just a storefront. That's Sam Drucker's store. He's got a contract to do the mail with the, for the post office with the people. So Sam Drucker's the problem. We can call him the postmaster, but he's still the problem. He's a contractor working for the government. Because if you go, I wish I'd taken the time to find it, but you can find the oath of office that a postmaster is supposed to take. It's written in the postal law. And you can find online, you look, you'll find a postmaster taking an oath, and it's not the same oath. Right? It's just like all the other things I talk about with the oath. It's like a separate parallel system that we've been forced into that they keep us in because they don't cancel our stance. We can't do official business and petition the government for the redress of grievances. Or if you put something in court, it's not seen as official court document because it didn't go through the system properly, and on and on and on. Do you want it to be official business of the federal government? You got to use official mailing and watermark paper. Amount of postage, markings, endorsements. Whether the mailer or USPS pre-cancel stamp, each mail pays with pre-cancel postage must bear markings and endorsements required for that rate claimed or the services requested. So we really need to know what this is. I want it to be official mail of the federal government. That's what I want my mail to be, and they need to tell you what that is. If they don't tell you, well, then that would be deceptive acts and practices, which is a violation of a state law. And you could go file a criminal complaint, a police report with the police station of the city where the post office is located and say that building down there, they've denied me public accommodations, which is the one I use, or you could say they're using deceptive acts and practices because they're not allowing you to send official mail. It doesn't matter what anybody says. Just say, dude, I just want to put the complaint. I want to put the report in. I want a copy of the report. Right? We need to make it official. We need to make them put this shit in the record that we complained that the post office isn't canceling our stamps and isn't giving us paper so we can do official business with the United States government, federal government. Okay, return addresses. Mail pieces with a pre-canceled imprint must have a complete domestic return address. They'd have to agree that that's where you live then. Right? Everybody is considered homeless, right? And so people who want to get general mail, general delivery, if you read what that's for, it's for people that are homeless. Right? So I want to claim a residence myself. I want to be established in a residence. I want to be a registered qualified elector of the jurisdiction that I live in. And if I can't be that, then I'm not in your system. And that's the system we're in now. They don't allow you to be a registered qualified elector in anything because we've been taken from the republic and now we're stuck in the democracy. Right? United States Republic, United States of America, democracy. You're in the United States of America, King George's jurisdiction, where they just lie, cheat, and steal. It's run by esquires, paid liars, children of the devil. Call them what you will. Right? But they know the devil's in the details. They just make these little changes in the details, and if you don't complain about it, well, you find yourself in the position we find ourselves in today. Anyways, the mailer must put a cancellation endorsement on the left of the postage, showing city, 2-letter state abbreviation, zip code, official mailing of the Office of Mailing. Well, the mailer, right, since I'm not mailing it, I don't have a permit, then my mailer is the USPS. They're going to do it for me. That's the service they provide. Okay, place of mailing. Form of cancellation, stamps ordered with pre-canceled imprint have one visible line. Okay, well, you're supposed to be able to get pre-canceled stamps. Rate determination, high value, permit. A mailer who wants to use USPS pre-canceled stamps and stamped envelopes must complete this 3615 and file it at Okay, well, I don't want to have to do any more work than I need to, so no, I don't want to do it that way. But I still want to have pre-canceled stamp. I just don't want to do it. Right? I don't want you to give me a pre-canceled stamp, USPS. I want you to cancel the first-class stamp that I bring to you with your fucking postmark. Mailer pre-cancellation. The mailer must request authorization to pre-print rate markings on pre-canceled stamps or to use pre-canceled postmark on adhesive stamps. Right? Again, I don't want to do that. I want the post office to do it. Content of postmark. The Mailers pre-cancel postmark must contain specific elements. The mailing date, day, month, and year is used on first-class mail. The month and year of mailing may be shown on standard mail. The words mailer's postmark followed by permit number, either the city, state, and 5-digit zip code of the post office, or mailed from zip code followed by the 5-digit zip code, right? Can't use 3 digits like I showed you on them documents. It has to be 5-digit zip code. Day, month, and year, city, state, 5-digit zip code. A pre-cancel postmark may include the words, authorized abbreviations, rate, so forth and so on. Black ink must be used for cancellation. And when you go to the USPS window, they only ever use a red stamp there. Right? So it's not the post office. It's the USPS doing business for the post office. And finally, this is what a mailer's postmark has to look like. Now, I don't know what it's going to say for the postmaster because they got mailer's postmark permit something or other. What does the postmaster say for the post office? I'm not really sure. But I don't need to know. All I know is none of this has been done, so I'm going to complain about it. And they can explain to the judge why they did it. All right. How about this? A customer's guide to mailing. Right? If you Google that, I'm sure you'll find the same thing. And if you go down to page, I believe it's page 14, where it talks about envelopes, right? Letters, bills, greeting cards, other documents can be sent in standard white, manila, or recycled paper envelopes. Items needing extra protection can be sent in bubble-lined, padded, waterproof envelopes. These envelopes, along with stationery, and prepaid first-class mail postcards and envelopes, can be purchased at the post office. Right? So I want the post office to give me stationery with a watermark on it and a prepaid first-class mail envelope. So I can do official business with the federal government and petition the government for redress of grievances. Because without those elements, it's not official. Yeah. This is out of the glossary, right? Postal glossary. And postmark is a postal cancellation imprint on letters, flats, and parcels. The imprint shows dates and names, state, and zip codes of the post office and sectional center facility that accepted custody of the mail piece. Postmarking stamp, a hand stamp used to cancel postage on mail and for imprinting in black ink the date and city, state, and zip code. What else did I have here? Let's see if there's any more. All right, they got a back stamp to mark the back of a mail piece with a postmark or canceling device to show that the piece was received, dispatched, or missent. So it's like they should be postmarking the front to show that you sent it and then postmarking the back to show that it was received. 2 different postmarks from 2 different post offices. The one that sent it and the one that received it. Right? But you ever find a back stamp on your paperwork, on your envelopes? I don't think so. Canceling machine. A process machine that cancels postage stamps and places a postmark on the letter. Cancellation, a postmark that contains the post office, name, zip, a state, zip, month, day, and year, and the mail matter was that the mail matter was canceled. Right? Without that stuff, it's not been canceled. They're just pretending. Right? They're simulating a legal process. Facer canceller, mail process equipment that automatically faces letter size. Okay. Anyways, you get the idea. Right? There's a way that's supposed to be done, and it's not being done. And just real quick, through the handbook for official mail, that'd be Handbook DM 103 from 1998. And which it had in here. What did it have? It showed these different ways of doing it. So, well, let me get down here. Introduction, postal fees, tracking. Okay, this is penalty mail, right? Penalty mail metered postage strips must include the words U.S. official mail, penalty for private use, $300. Right, that's all over here. Return address must include the agency name, mailing address, followed by pre-printed words, official business. Required format, penalty, metered mail. Then how come they have under their penalty for private use $300, right? They put that on this side also, and it's penalty for private use $300 over here. And it's got a round postmark, and hey, it's all in black, and that's the way it's supposed to look. Right? If you didn't get mail sent to you like this, then it wasn't official business of the federal government. That's a big deal because you know now you can go and say that they're committing fraud through the post office. And you take it to the local police and say it's the postmaster's fault. He's the one letting the shit go through. Now, the postmaster can either, go answer to the judge or say, hey, it's a mistake. I'll take care of it immediately and get us our relief. But, I'm saying put all the pressure on the postmaster. He's our gateway to the republic. And then just real quick, we'll get on to the things going on today. But this is what I had originally filed into the small claims court in Grand Rapids, because that's where the United States is located, in the Western District. That's where the courthouse is, so forth. Right? And it was the United States. That was the defendant. Excuse me. Now, since I have done this, I have learned that when you sue the United States, you're supposed to write to the serve the United States Attorney General. But in the Supreme Court rules, it says if you need to serve an officer of the United States, you need to send it to the Solicitor General of the United States. And in those Supreme Court rules, it gives the address to send it to. I showed it in those last 3 videos I did. Right? But, they have all these little things that you have to do things right, and a lot of them aren't being done. And that's just another one. But here was the case. I wanted to sue the United States. They said they were going to move it to another venue. And so they moved it to, to the federal court, they said, and made it United States of America. Okay, so this is what's going on. I wrote sometime in early February to the Hala Y. Yarbu, right, Chief District Judge, asking about the writ habeas corpus and so forth and so on. Thank you for your letter. Postmarked February 3rd, 2023. The Code of Conduct of the United States Judge prohibits the judge from speaking and so forth. Was given to this paralegal who's now answering for the judge. At least that's what the paralegal said. I believe the judge actually tied up in the corner and that that the workers have taken over the frickin' offices. Right? The judge didn't even know this happened. Right? I think it's a conspiracy. The judge wouldn't do this, would they? You would think the judge would answer your question. Anyways, this is when I figured, I got something going on, because she had put this court case number up here. Right? I said, well, yeah, I know what this is. It wasn't me going after the United States of America. It was me going after the United States, and they moved it to the federal court, so I quit trying to do anything with it. But I remember that they did that with this case, absolutely. I will direct the clerk of court to file this exchange of correspondence on the docket so there is a complete record of communication. However, if you wish to ask the court for any relief, you will need to file and serve a motion or other appropriate document. Right? So that had to be official business. For some things, you may even need to file a new case. The court cannot act on an informal letter. That was the key at the time. Well, if you go and look, there's a particular format for a formal letter. But, there are numerous formats they say are for a formal letter. And that was one thing. I said, well, okay, that's one thing to be informal or formal as far as the style of the letter itself, but what about how it's mailed? Because this is not seen as official business, is the way I was reading it. So, I said, okay, well, let's find out what's going on here. And that's when I started looking at the official business part of it. But she put, like she said, she put and sent it to the court. So here's the envelope that I put it in, right? And now I'm sending it to this chief judge, and it's received by the clerk of court, U.S. District Court. Anytime you see U.S. you can start believing it has something to do with the Civil War, which is still ongoing. And sure enough, here's the postmark date, but this is not a postmark because it doesn't have a 5-digit zip code. Right, but she pointed it out to me, and if I agree with her assessment that it was postmarked, then apparently I agree that 493 is a postmark. Now, maybe in the United States of America system that's true, but not in the United States itself. And then this is the envelope that she sent it in, that came to me in, where the stamp says first class mail. Hang on a second. Right. Well, here, let's just compare it to. It's there. Right, where it said to have it this way. Right. This is what they're showing the way it's supposed to look. Official business penalty for private use over here, with some kind of pre-sorted stamp. If they have. What's the name for it? They have a permit. But not everybody has a permit, so they get to use stamps also. Right? If they were going to use a stamp and not a permit, then it should have looked like this, which is not what it looked like when it came from the judge. Now, here's the other letter that I got at the same time where I said I was getting two letters basically the same day, and I was getting this from the magistrate judge of the court case who had jurisdiction of the court case, who was sending me some kind of recommendation about the court case. And none of that would have happened had I not mailed the judge in the first place. But since I did, I got these two envelopes now, and neither of these have that statement below, about $300, and it certainly doesn't say it over here on the stamp, which is the requirements of this manual. Right? So, according to handbook DM 103, it wasn't done right. I just stop right there and go file a complaint, police report, file a police report with the police of the city that has the zip code in it. Your zip code, right? Because it's a conspiracy. Don't get me wrong. It's got a whole bunch of people, conspiracy across the United States involved, but it started at your freaking postmaster. He's the one that let it happen. He's the one that can do something about it. Well, and then I sent a second one, and I got this answer back, which had its own thing, but it said basically the same thing, that for that reason, your letter has been referred to me. Where does it say? The court cannot act on an informal letter. It said it again. And it said it was postmarked. Right? Second time around, telling me the same things. Let's see what they did this time. Right, so here's my letter, and it was postmarked. No, it's not postmarked. They don't have, a round circle with the 5-digit zip code. And I put Luke 18.3 on there, right, which is avenge me on my adversary. Screened by the USMS. That must be United States Marshal Service. Well, that's good. I want all these people to know what's going on. And it was received, but this time it wasn't received. Like the other one said it was received by the clerk, U.S. U.S. clerk. Well, now it's got a different received stamp on it. So they're not doing it quite the same way. But in both cases, it said it's coming from the United States District Court, Western District of Michigan. Right? That's what the other letter said also. But the envelope it's coming from just says United States District Court, right? Office of the Clerk, United States District Court. Okay, I had to step away for a few minutes, so I'm going to have to pick some place to restart. Let's start here. Which was that the Chief Judge is saying that my letters are postmarked, right? We looked, well, they're using a 5-digit postmark, or a 4-digit, 3-digit postmark. And that it's not, they can't do anything if it's on, no action be taken regarding this letter, which is closed. Okay, here it is. The court cannot act on an informal letter, which either means it needs to be formed as a formal letter, which there is kind of an outline for that, but there's many of them. So well, you really can't do that. But what it could be is, well, it needs to be official instead of informal. And again, we get into, well, what does that take to do? And well, there's 3 types of official mail. You got your franked, you got your penalty, and you got your prepaid. And the only one available to us is prepaid. And prepaid requires a canceled postage stamp. And we're not getting any of that. But basically when we send official mail, it should look like this when it leaves, right? With a prepaid cancel stamp and so forth. And if we're getting mail from them, it should look like this. And this isn't what we're getting, right? That even if they use a postage meter, it still needed to be canceled. And but for it to be official mail, it had to have this particular style of meter. And this isn't what they're using, right? Let's look at an example again, right? That's not what they used here or here. All right, there's none of that information over here, and this doesn't say penalty for $300 over here. And, sure enough, I know I said it somewhere. There it is, penalty for private use, $300 had to be on there. So they're showing it, and it's not on there. And then I had one other one that I had filed in there because they sent me something I had to respond to, and I was going on vacation and said, okay, I'm going to put in my rebuttal to their thing, and I did that in one mailing, and then I forgot to send this notice of filing I wanted to send, so I just put this in the mail separate. And I get back from my little vacation, and I find out, well, it's on the docket. And in the docket, they put the envelope it came in, and, this doesn't look like any difference than it left my house. It's not been canceled. So forth and so on. So this is my evidence, right? All I told you so far was for me to get my evidence together to go and file a complaint with the police. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Just one last thing before I do. I want to make sure to show that they're sending mail from the Office of the United States District Court. That's where the mail's coming from. But that's not who the letter is from. So it has a letter from the United States District Court, Western District of Michigan in it, but that isn't who sent it. It didn't come from the chambers of the judge. It came from the clerk's office. Something wrong with that. Okay, so now I had what I wanted to use for evidence. I had a complaint. I could say, well, look, this is what happened, right? And so I went to the Michigan Penal Code. That's what this is a copy of. And I just put in the word mail because I said, well, this is happening through the mail. Let me see what I find. And lo and behold, under civil rights, I find denial of equal public accommodations, in which it said that any person being the owner, lessee, proprietor, manager, superintendent, agent, or employee of any such place who shall directly or indirectly refuse, withhold from, or deny to any person any of the accommodations, advantages, facilities, and privileges thereof, or directly or indirectly publish, circulate, issue, display, post, or mail any written or printed communications, notice, or advertisement to the effect that any of the accommodations, advantages, facilities, and privileges of any such place may be refused, withheld, or denied for these reasons, so forth and so on. All right. Fine, not less than $100, or in prison, not less than 15 days. It's a frickin' misdemeanor. Okay, well, they withheld service from me by withholding the frickin' canceling the postage stamp. Forgetting at this point that, I want the paper also. I want that Eagles watermark paper, which I yeah, I could go ahead and order a case through Skillcraft, whoever it is, but I should be able to go down to the post office and get some too. And so if you're not getting mail on that postal, on that official paper, then you have a reason to complain, to say that somebody's using the mail for mail fraud. Right? All them IRS papers you get, whatever you're getting from the court, whatever it is, if it's not on watermark paper, then it's not official. So 15 days. So I said, okay, well, that's what I'll use to be my basis of my complaint. And, I almost forgot this really, really important part I wanted to talk about the post office before I get to the complaint that I did. And that is that on this, if I was to go to the, where are you at? Oh, please hang on just a second. I wanted to show, right, that the zip code that they use for the court is 49503. As it turns out, that's not the city of Grand Rapids' zip code, which is where the seat of government is supposed to be. 49503 is actually a zip code for a historical district that's within the city of Grand Rapids. If you were looking at the territory, say, well, there it is, but it's like an alcove, right? It's its own little private entity. It's called it even has its own name. Where is that thing? Right, it's called the Ledyard Post Office. And so I had those pictures, but this one's a little bit better. So that's actually way down here where this little teardrop is, right? And way up here is the courthouse. And across the street from the courthouse, over here, is the United States Postal Service for Grand Rapids. But this isn't the post office that they're using. They're using this one way down here, which looks like this. All right, it's a little storefront in this group of buildings. It's a historical district. I mean, there it is right there. Right there's the United States Post Office. But it's not Grand Rapids, Michigan, right? That's not where the post office is. It's a Ledyard post office. So your postal city then is called Ledyard, not Grand Rapids. If you were to be using as the mail to send mail, that the proper name of the postal city wouldn't be Grand Rapids, it'd be Ledyard. But that's what it looks like. And now all the government agencies in Grand Rapids are using this. Not the court uses it, the city uses it, the county clerk uses it, the county uses it, prosecutor uses it. Everybody uses this zip code, which is this little storefront that's in, it's an alcove within the postal district for Grand Rapids, but it's not the postal district for Grand Rapids. And so it's like a foreign district within a district. Right, a historical district group of 7 adjacent, coherently designed 19th century commercial structures located within a square block. Well, that's not where that's not where the courthouse is. The courthouse is supposed to be in the city of Grand Rapids. And this Ledyard is actually in what would have been the village of Grand Rapids. Way back in the day. So, they're doing this shit intentionally, obviously. Okay. Well, now it was time to complain. I mean, this is the Grand Rapids post office, right? That's what it looks like. And that don't look. And I want to point out. And even in there's actually 2 post offices in the post office. With 2 different zip codes. But they're all 5-digit zip codes. So you put 495, for instance, there's like 5 different zip codes for the next 2 numbers that could be used. And so just putting 495 doesn't identify anything. So crazy stuff. Okay, well, this part's fairly easy, right? City of Rockford, go to their website, say, well, how do I file a police report? And it says, well, if you have an emergency, call 911. I've done that before, and that didn't really work so well for what I wanted to try. So I said, no, we'll make it non-emergency, and we'll call the other phone number. So I called it, and some young lady answered, and you know, asked me what I wanted. I said I wanted to file a police report. She said, well, do you want to come in and do it? I said, well, no, not really. I'd just soon do it by email if I could. And she said, okay, well, I have an officer call you. And a couple hours later, I got a call. And in between, or actually about the same time, because I had searched this site a little bit closer, I had found the email address for the chief. So I said, well, I'm going to send the chief, my evidence, basically. And then I can tell the person I'm talking to, look, I sent the chief the evidence I'm talking about. It'd be much easier to understand if you were actually looking at the damn piece of paper. So that's what I did. And I said, Chief Robinson, I'm an 8-year active duty U.S. Army veteran, reporting I was denied public accommodations in violation of Michigan compiled law, MCL 750-147, by the Postmaster, Rockford Post Office, located at 57 Cortlandt Street, Rockford, Michigan 49341. This denial is a civil rights violation. Then I went on to say, well, here's where you can find the law, right? That's what that was about. So proof of this Michigan Penal Code violation is the attachments to this email, consisting of a copy of a filing with the Clerk of Court, U.S. District Court, Western District of Michigan, which clearly shows a lack of proper postmark on the envelope. That was the one where I had sent it in, and it looks just like it's still sitting on my desk, not a mark on the front cover. Two mailings to me from the Office of Clerk, United States District Court, that do not have proper postmark on the envelope. And now I could say I don't believe that the envelope itself is correct, because it don't have a little statement there about penalty for private use. Without a proper postmark canceling the stamp to prove prepayment, I am denied the privilege of conducting official business with the United States, the U.S. government. Instead of these correspondence constituting official business of the U.S. government, they are in reality a simulated legal process under color of law. It is the duty of the postmaster to postmark mail, and he failed, and in doing so, state law was violated, offending my civil rights. Right, again, the state law has been offended, and the result is my civil rights are violated. But what was broke was the state law, right? So it's a state issue. And in the city, by charter, right, this city has to enforce the laws of the state. I cannot pursue the civil remedy provided by MCL 147 without first reporting the crime, and for the City of Rockford to provide me a certified copy of the police report to use as self-authenticating evidence with the court. I will be calling the non-emergency reporting number to initiate my report, and as your email address is available from the city website, I'm sending you the evidence of my accusation to incorporate into the police report. I will inform the officer who takes my statement that you have the documentation. Thank you for your service. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Right, so that was all in place, and then I get a phone call, and, had to go through the stuff again, who you are and what you're talking about, and, and explain, well, why it might not seem like a big deal. It is a big deal. And without going into everything that happened in the report, in the conversation, because I just soon wait to see if I get a copy of the record and then just have the record. A couple things came up where, first of all, he agreed. He said, well, why do you think they did not cancel your stamp? Because, by that time he was actually looking at what I had sent him. Right. And, so he's agreed they didn't cancel the stamp. That's the biggest thing. The cop has already agreed. There's probable cause that my stamp was not canceled. And so if that's the case, then I was denied public accommodations. Right? They can go figure out why they did it. I don't need to know. I mean, he asked me, why do you think they did it? And I said, well, I don't know. That's for the court to decide why they did it. I have an opinion. So then he asked for it, and I gave him the long-winded opinion about, the separation between the United States of America and the United States, the gold fringe flag, on and on and on. He didn't deny any of it, right? He let me have my say. And so that was on Friday. And so now I'm waiting till Monday to see if I can get a copy, right? A certified copy of a public record. This is why this is important, right? You want a certified copy of the report, because a certified copy of a public record is self-authenticating evidence in federal court. It doesn't need anything else to prove it is what it is. And what I want to be able to do is prove that I filed a police report, right? So that I can take in the small claims, and I'm going to try to, like it said in the law, I'm going to claim the fine, right? Not less than $100. I'm going to claim the $100 because it's a fine, and fines can be paid to the person injured. So those are my damages. It could have just been easily called damages, but they didn't. They called it a fine. And, take it to small claims court so that they have to handle it through small claims court instead of the big court. And we'll see if they do it this time or not. But at the same time, there's been a police report made, and if it needs to be investigated as a crime. Now, not every state may have this denial of equal public accommodations that's so easy to find as what I found in the penal code. But what every state does have is a Consumer Protection Act of some kind, right? Where you can say, because these are all things that are wrong, that a seller will provide location, where it gives a list of unfair, unconscionable, deceptive methods, acts, and so forth, and then it defines them, right? So unfair, unconscionable, or deceptive method, acts, or practices in the conduct of trade or commerce are unlawful and defined as follows: causing a probability of confusion or misunderstanding as to the source, sponsorship, approval, or certification of goods and services. Well, I thought I was sending official business mail to the court through the post office. But that isn't what happened because they didn't cancel my stamp. It doesn't really matter why it didn't happen. I'm blaming them for it. Right? And so since, the postmaster is responsible for everything at the post office, then, he'll be the defendant. Or at least the agent for the Rockford post office, which, that's probably I believe that's who I'm going to make the defendant, is the Rockford post office. It has an address, known entity, it's an artificial person, so it can be sued just like anybody else can. And in this act, it says action by person for declaratory judgment, injunction, or actual damages. Class action by persons for actual damages, And it says, except in class action or as otherwise provided in Section 3, a person who suffers a loss as a result of a violation of this act may bring an action to recover actual damages or $250, whichever is greater, together with reasonable attorney fees. Well, this is why you can take the small claims for $250 in damages to get the judgment in your favor, and then you can go civilly after them for their insurance. But you have to have the judgment first, right, that they did wrong. So that's my plan, going after the damages, or in the other case, the fine. But this may be just simpler because this applies to every state I know has something similar to this. Your state's Consumer Protection Act. And you'll know that you're, looking at it because they'll have about the same list right here. This unfair, unconscionable, deceptive methods, acts, practices in conduct of trade or commerce. Right? Find that act, go through it, and see what, you can do as far as the penalty. right? Because you're looking it's declaratory judgment. I think they called it on here. Let's look at that. Action by person for declaratory judgment. And we're going for this right here. That's all you need to start with. A reason, a statutory reason to use the court. And there it is, right, for those damages. Get the judgment, worry about everything else afterwards. Just get them to agree that the postmaster didn't fucking, cancel your damn stamp. Well, that makes it so you can't do official mail, and now it's mail fraud. So without having to do all that, then, well, they could come to you and offer you, relief. And, I just soon get it and everybody go home and, let's not do it again. If people want to repent from their evil ways, I'm happy to let them repent, but I still want my relief. I'll forgive you, but I want my relief, Postmaster. All right, so, anyways, that's what's going on. Postmaster Disaster. Police report 23-692. They're withholding postmarks and stationery, right? Watermarked with an eagle. So let's see what happens next. Okay. Y'all have a great day. I'll keep you in the loop when I know more. See ya.